The Caledonia Warriors got back on the winning track with victory at St. Charles last week. We're with head coach Carl Fruechte, and looking at the line score of that game, coach, 0 points in the first quarter, 47 total points in the second quarter. Fortunately, 33 were on your side. Kind of an unusual game the way it played out, but it played out in your favor. How'd you guys get it done?
Well, to be honest, I thought we started a little slow. It was a tough week, a lot of, analyzing over the chat field, the game, just going through things. And, obviously I wish our guys would have came out a little bit faster, but again, St. Charles deserves the credit there. Matt Reinhardt and his staff do a great job. They're, longtime football coaches, football people. So they had their kids prepared. And just once we started, getting our heads together, things started to roll for us. And our kids just did a good job getting off the ball, both all three sides. So.
And looking at the stats from that game, a nice balanced attack. Once again, you were able to move the ball on the ground and through the air once things got going. And you mentioned the slow start in that game. Just was it a case of once things got moving in a positive direction, the snowball just kept mounting?
Yeah. And we, so we're down 2 starting offensive linemen. So, 2 juniors stepped up, did a great job. I just think, right, high school kids, high school boys, they got to get their confidence. Even though we rep a lot in practice, we rotate, everybody gets in our practice so that, in theory they should be ready, but let's be honest, right? It's always a little different under the bright lights, but again, they were doing the right things. We just had to communicate. And once we got rolling, it was good. A little frustrated with their kick return. To be quite honest, that was we just didn't handle it very well. So we've got to do better.
And when you mentioned when you have a couple of offensive linemen out, you look at the offensive line as a collective unit. When you have to replace a couple of people in a game situation, how much of an adjustment is that just to make sure everybody's on the same page and moving in the right direction?
I think the biggest thing for us to get through to our guys is when you're in there, you're going to have to talk a little bit louder than you do in practice. There's more people hollering and screaming, right? More people at at a game, obviously, than a practice. Kids are more hyped up. Sometimes, they're so focused they can't hear. You know what I'm talking about? It talks about that, it's that fight or flight. And so you got to really verbalize and sometimes maybe even grab your center or grab your tackle and say, hey, remember, we're doing this, and make your calls. So again, once those 2 guys started doing that, obviously things got off to a good roll.
And obviously everybody in the state of Minnesota, yourself included, used to this MEA week with the short week and the 5-day turnaround. Is there a magic potion that you used to manage this as well as you could? Is it change on a year-to-year basis based on the situation you're in, or is it pretty much standard how you get ready for this final regular season game opponent?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much, we're at a place where it's pretty standard. The big thing is to make sure, like we always talk to our guys, we want you to be racehorses. So we got to make sure that they're fresh, that their minds are clear. You sort of work. That's why you put so much time in early in the season, right? Your 2-a-days, sometimes I think people think you're just getting ready for that first game. No. All that stuff back then is also to get you ready for the tournament. It's to get you ready for the last week, so that you can reflect back. So, there's some things too, you got to let go, Darren. In my early years, I would have been with everything. And now it's like, okay, there's some things that we've learned. They either got it or they don't. And you just got to move on and reflect back on your fundamentals.
And you mentioned that from the player's perspective. How about from the coaching perspective with the 5-day turnaround as compared to the 7-day turnaround? I'd imagine as a younger coach, you probably didn't worry about sleeping over those 5 days, but you got to take care of yourself too. Is that a fair statement?
That, Darren, that's a great point. Unfortunately, as the older we get, looking in a mirror, I got to make sure that I'm staying hydrated, getting some good breakfast and getting to bed. And, you got to, you're constantly talking to the kids about that, rest and recovery, sleep, how important sleep is, the hours before midnight, good protein based breakfast, all that sort of stuff. And you also got to look yourself in the mirror.
And most importantly, you got a pretty good football team that's coming to town this week in Cannon Falls. They're sitting at 6-1. What's impressed you the most in your study of them?
They've gotten bigger and faster. They run that straight T. As we've been told, the St. Paul Pioneer Press has picked them to win 3A football. That's quite a compliment. They got a good coaching staff. They're good people. It's an interesting offense, and it requires a lot of discipline, and you got to do your job, or all of a sudden that fullback's going to be running by you. So it's a different offense, but again, it sort of gets you ready for the tournament, because if you're, again, whoever's fortunate to come through our section, they like to do that misdirection up north, and it's going to get you ready for those schools up north. So it's a great game for us. We're excited to play. It's football. If you can't get excited, then you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be up. So,
and you touched on the offense that St. Charles ran with the little bit of an option look last week, and a straight T coming this week with Cannon Falls. From a principle standpoint, are there any similarities in trying to defend both of these offenses?
Yeah, right. The veer, they're either, the way we see it at Caledonia, you're veering A gap or you're veering C gap. And it's sort of the same when it comes to the straight T, except they're not reading. Well, yeah, they're not really reading anybody. That's just sort of, here's where the ball, what gap is it going through? And then you got to make sure that, you take care of those gaps. For us, when we break Cannon Falls down, they're either an A gap run team or a C gap run team. Very, very few do they go B or outside of there. Now they will, but again, you got to play the percentages, and obviously we don't have as much practice time. So we got to keep it simple, make sure we take care of those gaps for sure.
All right, Coach, hopefully you can end the regular season in style with a victory tomorrow night. Keep your guys healthy. We wish you best of luck.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Carl Fruechte, head coach of the Caledonia Warriors.